All right, welcome back to the Fantasy Football School. Today we're going to talk about my top 10 wide receiver prospects, my grades, and my comps. And without further ado, let's go. But first, I want to talk about my honorable mention receivers who didn't make my top 10, but are fairly in that same tier for the most part. But anyways, they're all graded mid to late seconds. I also have like 5 receivers that have a third round grade. But anyways, let's move on here. Ricky Pearsall. Initially, I had a third round grade, and then he showed his athleticism during the combine. And I watched his tape again, and I know initially I thought he was just slot receiver with the athleticism he showed. He can be more than that, but essentially my current comp right now is like a poor man's Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's more crisp at route running. At least, what's it called? Recency bias. But anyways, Tez Walker, he was initially a top 10 receiver of mine, and then Senior Bowl happened, shot the bed essentially, and then at the combine he showed I had him in the top 10, but ultimately that Senior Bowl situation still has a sour taste in my mouth, and I can't put him back there until. And yeah, anyways, I have a DJ Chark comparison. Although Tez Walker is probably the best in terms of feeling in this group, he has that wide receiver and alpha potential. That's why I had him in the top 10, but unfortunately, he struggled at the Senior Bowl, and I still can't get over that. But next, Roman Wilson. Also, thing with Wilson is he has a lot of talent. He has the skills, but fortunately his time at Michigan, he didn't get to show him off because of that offense and how Jim Harbaugh likes to run his offense. You can see glimpses of his talent, his speed, his skills, but unfortunately, like I said, we barely saw spurts of it. It reminds me of Darius Slayton, a much more refined route runner in terms of coming into the league than Darius Slayton. I think Slayton was just essentially just a deep threat that has physicality on him. And I don't know if I haven't seen that much Giants game, but I don't think he's improved much outside of a boundary receiver that's speed. I wouldn't be surprised if Roman Wilson has the same career Darius Slayton, but I think he's more like a Darius Slayton plus in my opinion. And then finally Johnny Wilson. Man, everyone's saying he should, switch to tight end, which I could see. But I mean, he impressed me at the Senior Bowl. He had a couple good practices. And then at the combine, he tested better than I thought. And initially had a third round grade, mostly for his traits, but he showed that he can play the wide receiver position. Although we'll see how he does when he actually plays against pros. But right now I have Allen Lazard as my comp. Similar play style, similar type, although Lazard is much refined blocker. Although Johnny Wilson has the potential, he's good, but he's not Allen Lazard type of blocker, at least come into the league. But anyway, that's my honorable mentions. Let's move on to my top 10, and first is Troy Franklin from Oregon. It's true junior, 6'1", 21 years old. So before the combine, Troy Franklin was like I think he was number 6 or number 7 on my rankings. His tape was amazing, quick, explosive. He pretty much worked all over the field. His yard after catch skills were a plus, but unfortunately he went to the combine, measured pretty small, although I knew he was pretty small, but I didn't think he was 176, 6'2" small. That BMI is concerning, especially his potential in the league. He still ran a pretty good time, but being 176 pounds, you should be running like in the low 4.3s. So I had to knock him down because a lot of the receivers that I had behind him actually, played like ran my projected time or even better. But anyways, he disappointed the combine, and now based on his tape, I could just see this peak wide receiver 2 on a great team kind of potential. Right now I have a mid-second grade. He was like a late first for me before the combine, but his testing was just terrible. Right now my comp is Darnell Mooney plus. Essentially Like Darnell Mooney, when you see him, he's like a slot receiver, right? His body type. But when he came into the league, he played outside boundary. He played some slot, but mostly he was an outside receiver. So basically, that's what I see Troy Franklin, like a taller, better version of Darnell Mooney. Much more refined coming into the league. Very productive in college. But yeah, Darnell Mooney, basically a 6'2 version of Darnell Mooney. So let's look at the RAS grade here. The only reason why Darnell Mooney has such a bad RAS score is his size, his 5'10", 176. While they have the same speed score, 4.38, 4.41, 20-yard split, 10-yard split, the same thing as Mooney, Vert. Very similar players, but Franklin's just basically, like I said, taller version prospect. But anyways, that's number 10, Troy Franklin. Moving on to number 9 here, it's Xavier Legette from South Carolina, redshirt senior, 6'1", 221. Pretty old at 23 years old, but man, this dude is big, fast, strong, electric, plus blocker, plus returner. Only problem I've had is, it's your senior, late breakout, 1 year production. He's old, and he's pretty much has a limited route tree in terms of the skills he showcased his senior year. But the thing is, his first 4 years, there was a lot of issue why he didn't get a lot of playing time. Coaching changes, COVID, injuries. So that's a big knock on his projection, his old. But if you ignore that, he's an elite prospect in terms of size and build. And I mean that 1 year production also. So right now I have an early 2nd grade. The thing is, a lot of people with this body type and like the return skills that he has, a lot of people can see, a little bit of Deebo Samuel. But right now, since he's not that refined as a receiver, all I see is Cordero Patterson. Let's see the RAS grade here. Xavier Legette, almost a 10. Just athletically amazing. And then let's to Cordero Patterson. Pretty much the same size, a little heavier, 40-yard dash, same speed score essentially. The only problem is CPAT did the shuttle and 3-cone drills and he struggled, whereas we don't have Xavier Legette's testing. That's probably why he didn't do it. But hey, anyways, number 9, early 2nd grade right now. And moving on to number 8 here, we got Keon Coleman, true junior, Florida State, 6'3", 213, 20 years old, really young here. So Keon Coleman, elite size, ball skills. He uses his frame to his advantage. He knows how to use it in terms of positioning, yard after catch. Just all these skills at 20 years old is amazing. A lot of his issue from a lot of people is separation already before the combine, and he ran a 40 time that just accentuate his separation issues. Although he did run pretty fast in the gauntlet drill that everybody alludes to, which is more of a real football setting than the 40-yard. But hey, anyways, struggles in press a little bit here, but that can be improved. All these issues that he has can be improved because he just is only 20 years old. But anyways, with this size and ball skills, I have an early 2nd grade. But before the combine, I didn't think he was gonna run so slow, like 4.61, I think. He ran like a 4.5, low 4.5s. He would have been a late first for me. Current comp is Devontae Parker because of that ball skills. And let's see how their RAS grades fall out here. Devontae Parker, almost perfect, 9.78. Whereas Keon Coleman's speed score is really what hurt him here. Elite size, elite broad and vertical here. But compared to his 40 with Devontae Parker, 4.61 is really bad. And then his 10 and 20 year split just hurts his RAS score. But I think he could have improved it. But I don't think he trained hard. He probably didn't even care, honestly. Like, if you were going to test 4.61, I don't know why you actually tested. But hey, essentially when Devontae Parker came out, I think he got drafted like 15th or like top of the 1st round. If for some reason Keon Coleman ran like under 4.5, he would have been like a top 20 pick, honestly. But hey, number 8, early 2nd grade here. Move on to number 7, and it's Xavier Worthy here. Texas, true junior, 5'11", 165. Also 20 years old, really young, man. These receivers are just, they're so young, so that means they have time to improve their skills. But this stage, he's already an elite deep threat, and not just a deep threat. Also, he ran a lot of different routes at Texas, and actually, had success. And his bend and agility for his size, in terms of being too skinny, it's really good. But the problem I have with him is, and everybody, is that he's so small. His frame, he already wants his tall, skinny, and then he needs to improve his strength, because with his speed, he got away with that kind of size in college. But NFL is another breed, and he definitely gotta improve his strength there. But right now, I have a late first grade, and my current comp is Hollywood Brown. They're essentially the same player, honestly. Here, 5'11". I mean, Hollywood's a little shorter. That's why I said his frame's an issue. But speed-wise, Xavier Worthy got that world record, Mr. 4.21, basically. Amazing. But hey, that's a really good. A lot of teams does covet that speed, and he has the best speed ever recorded at the combine. So late first. Moving on to my number 8 here. Ladd McConkey, Georgia, redshirt junior, 6 foot, 186, 22 years old. Alright, so my draft grade in early second, and you recently just saw Xavier Worthy. I had a higher draft grade. Let me explain that. It's because that speed, it's not something you could learn. That's some elite thing. I mean, I still have McConkey rated in my top 10. It's just, like I said, teams covet that speed. You can't teach speed. If for some reason you could teach McConkey speed, then his ceiling is much higher. But anyways, I have him because he has a higher floor. But there's a lot of these type of players in this draft class that McConkey is gonna get bumped down a little bit. But in terms of overall, projection, I do have McConkey having, a more, I guess, consistent career than Xavier Worthy. But anyways, Ladd McConkey, above average route runner, pretty quick and fast. Essentially can play all 3 phases of the field. It's just, he's been hurt. He's been limited due to injury. And plus, he's a pretty good returner. But he also needs to improve his strength a little bit, because during press, he does get kind of owned. But as a route runner, he's one of the best, if not, top 3 in the. My current comp is Zay Flowers minus. So essentially, he's like a it's like a white version of Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers definitely stronger. He's a little more, not that Ladd doesn't have any juice. It's just, if you've seen Zay play this season, you can see that juice, that swag that he has. And for all the tape that I've seen with Ladd, he's more that consistent guy instead of like that explosive guy. That's why I have a lower grade on him than Xavier Worthy, because he lacks that explosiveness. But yep, my current comp is Zay Flowers. Pretty similar speed score. The thing is, BMI is higher. Actually, it's worse. Interesting. Anyway, same speed score, same. He didn't do the shuttle, but the shuttle score for Ladd is the reason why I have him over Xavier Worthy, because with this speed, you don't have to be just slot guy. You could play out, like, he has that speed to not just be a slot guy. This shuttle and 3-cone on top of his 40-yard dash and splits makes him, that all 3 phases kind of wide receiver. Whereas Xavier Worthy, although he showed, he played on the other parts of the field and succeeded in college, when he goes into NFL, he's most likely going to be that deep threat initially, and then they'll move him more toward, improving his strength to withstand playing on the other side of the field. But let's move on to my number 5 wide receiver here, and it's Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, 6'3", 209, 21 years old. Elite size, elite speed, elite plus quickness and burst, plus ball tracking. And one of the more amazing junior season along with Malik Neighbors. Fortunately, we saw some draft issues in his tape. His yard after catch kind of lacking when he's not beating coverage, when he has to break tackles. And plus, he only had 1 year of production, although it was elite. But Jaden Daniels didn't blow up till this year also. But yeah, he's always had that elite size and speed. Just we've only seen the production this year, so maybe that's a little bit concerning, but not in the grand scheme of things, because he's young. He got that perfect size, and right now I have a top 15 grade, especially after the combine. I think before the combine he was still my number 5, but he was like a top 25 prospect. I didn't think he was gonna run a 4.33, honestly, with this kind of size. And my current comp is Christian Watson here. Similar RAS score, although Watson being 6'4", definitely elevated his score. And 18 bench is amazing. But anyways, similar speed score, similar Burt and Broad. But man, these two wide receivers are basically the carbon copy of each other. The only problem with Christian Watson was when he was coming out, he was already 23 years old. So for some reason he was 21 with this RAS grade. He would have been a top 15 pick, just like I have Brian Thomas Jr. right now. So finally, number 4, AD Mitchell. This is probably one of the wild card here. I'm probably one of the people that's super high on him. 6'2", 205 junior from Texas. Also just turned 21 years old. Quick, shifty, and fast for his size. A plus contested catcher. Not elite, but plus catch radius. And plus amazing route runner. Not amazing, like above average route runner here. The only problem with this is, amazing skill set. He didn't produce in college. That's a huge red flag there. Plus, his intensity during games has a lot of, flags also, because he looks like sometimes he not takes plays off, but he doesn't put 100% most of the time. And it basically that shows that he doesn't have that dog in him, and we need to see that. Although he shows it, once in a while when he makes plays, but half the time he just seems lackadaisical on the field. Him and Brian Thomas are pretty the same grade. It's just depends on what you wanted, like what kind of receiver you want. Adonai is more of like technician, 5, 10, 15 yards, whereas Brian Thomas is that elite, over the top kind of receiver. I think they have similar floor but different skill set. I also have a top 15 grade like Brian Thomas, but before the combine, I think I had a top 25. But man, his speed score was amazing. And my current comp right now is Calvin Ridley's skill set and Julio Jones' body, if that makes any sense. Let's see how that stacks up here. Calvin Ridley, RAS score. So Adonai Mitchell, almost a perfect RAS score here. If he weighed like 5 more pounds, I think he would have been a 10.0. But anyways, like the same skill set as Calvin Ridley. The only problem is Calvin Ridley is 6 foot and he's slow in terms of comparison to AD Mitchell here. But the same amount of like fluidness in the route running, you may call slow, but it's just fluidity to me. But anyways, this is how he compared to Julio Jones. Same size, although that he's underweight, but same score. Ridiculous. Like I said, 15, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones' body. He has as much ceiling as anybody in this wide receiver class. It's just his limited production in college. Just, I can't put him into the top 10 at that point. A lot of this is just projection into the future based on like the traits he's shown, except the production he didn't have it, unlike the top 3 receiver that we have here. Moving on to the top 3. Number 3 is Rome Odunze, Washington. True senior, 6'3", 212. A young senior, 21 years old. Elite size, production, pretty good combination of size, speed, and skills, and a pretty complete route tree. He basically played every position, wide receiver position on the field, and produced at an elite level. Although, a lot of knocks on him is he should improve his blocking. He's adequate, but with his size and his speed, he should be better. But I think he just focused on more on being a receiver than, blocking. And a lot of times on tape, he could see that he has speed. He ran like a 4.4, but he doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Take advantage of that most of the time. If anything, he relies on his size more than his speed. But I mean, it's college. You could just body anybody, like all the DBs in there. When you're 6'3" and 212, you don't need speed. But anyways, I have a top 10 grade right now. Just a complete productive size receiver. Anyways, my current comp is Chris Godwin plus. Essentially, before Godwin tore his ACL with Tom Brady, he was becoming to like a top 10, top 8 receiver. He was getting there. Unfortunately, he got hurt and he never came back. But like I said, it's a bigger, faster, stronger, okay, not faster, but stronger version of, more polished version of Chris Godwin. Rome Odunze. Moving on to my top 2. We got Malik Nabers, true junior, 20 years old. Although, all right, he didn't measure at the combine. He didn't test. Just went there for, interviews, which is fine. It's just, I don't know what to make of it. He is the most complete wide receiver in this draft. Skill set, explosiveness, smooth, productive, and he's only 20 years old. So the only knock I can see on him right now is, I don't know how tall he is. Although he's probably 6 foot. I don't know how heavy he is, probably 200 pounds. The thing is, on the tape, he's fast and he's big enough, but we need that confirmation. If he was 6'3", 220, 215 like Rome Odunze, he would be the perfect prospect. And if he ran like a 4.35, be the best wide receiver prospect of all time. But unfortunately, we don't have those testing and we could just speculate. He's basically Justin Jefferson if he tested, but we don't know. But right now, I have a top 5 grade. My comp is Brandon Ayuk's, smoothness as a wide receiver with Waddle's electric explosiveness. I think he's a bit slower than Waddle, but he's in that range of Waddle. Like I said, the perfect prospect if, size didn't matter. But anyways, he didn't test, so I don't have any RES score to provide. So let's move on to my number 1 here. Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State. True junior, 6'3", 209, 21 years old. Elite size, elite skill set, elite production, elite route runner. For his size, essentially the complete wide receiver. Like the 6'3" version of Malik Nabers. Like they're different kind of receivers. Nabers more like, he's the explosive type, and Marvin Harrison's just that overbearing, all big possession receiver that can win with physicality, whereas Malik Nabers can win with explosiveness. And the thing is, Marvin Harrison doesn't need to win by physicality. Also, he's an elite route runner, but with his size and skills, he's virtually unguardable. The only issue I've had, so does everybody else, is his speed. I think he probably would have ran like high 4.4s or low 4.5s, but unfortunately he didn't test. Top 3 prospect. If he ran a 4.35 or like a low 4.4s, he's basically in that Calvin Johnson Megatron kind of prospect, like that Jamar Chase prospect. Like he's more Calvin Johnson. Oh no, actually no, he's more Julio Jones, and Malik Nabers more Jamar Chase kind of prospect. But they're all elite type of prospects. And current comp is AJ Green here. Similar height, similar weight. AJ Green ran a 4.49. So assuming that's what Marvin Harrison runs. I think AJ Green went top 3 maybe, I forget. But Marvin Harrison's a more nuanced route runner than AJ Green's a little more explosive. So Anyways, that's my top 10 wide receiver for the 2024 NFL draft. Probably my last top 10, maybe another one right before, nothing should change. Pro Day's not gonna change anything, so this is probably the final top 10 wide receiver ranking. Although outside of like the top 5, anyone outside of top 5 is like interchangeable, and I can see a lot of arguments for all of them. So anyways, that's it. See you on the next one. Peace.